Hey, what's going on, everybody? Thanks for checking the channel out today. We have a 1961 Ford Falcon in the shop. Well, it was in the shop. It's actually all done. I was could talk to you about it a little bit. We just did a little bit of work to it, not a whole lot. It was running pretty bad, and now it runs great. So I was going to go over what we did, what we found, and kind of talk about the car a little bit. I'm trying to stay out of the wind. It's a little breezy right here, so I'm going to talk about it a little bit, and I'm going to walk around and kind of show you the car. It might get a little bit windy out here. So return customer, really good customer. We've done a lot of multiple cars. 55 Chevy. We recently did a big build on that car, and it's actually going to be coming back in to do a front end conversion on that deal. So we'll have more video on that one. And we did a Studebaker for him and a 61 Impala. So he kind of stumbled across this car by accident. So, you know, he's an older fella. He still works. He loves cars. And certain days of the week, he goes to different restaurants in the area for lunch. And that particular day, he went to Lee's Chicken. And I won't just tell you how the story went. It's pretty cool. So he pulls up, and he sees this car sitting in the parking lot right there. And he walks in, he gets in line, and there's this older guy right there. And I guess there was nobody else in line, whatever, but he asked him, he says, "Hey, is that your Falcon out there?" And the guy says, "Yeah." Wasn't for sale or anything. He goes, "Oh man," he says, "Okay." He says, "Are you looking to sell it?" And the guy was like, "Yeah, I'll sell it." So that's how he ended up buying the car. Well, when he asked him, "How much you want for it?" And of course, you know, it had a little surface rust going on. He had somebody fix the surface rust. It's got that fender. That fender's the only spot on the whole car that's got a little issue going on there, right? The rest of it was just minor surface rust. So he's going to get it painted. But anyway, we can't find a fender. Like, you can't get fenders for these. I guess nobody makes them on the aftermarket. If anybody knows about them, you know, leave me a comment below. Let us know where we can get a fender, because we've been trying to find a fender, used even. So we're just he's gonna have that one repaired. They're gonna cut it out, put metal in it. But anyway, getting back to the story, he asked the guy, "Well, how much you want for it?" And the guy says, "Oh, I'll take $3,500. And he was like, "Oh, okay, cool." He says, "Well, I'll buy it." So anyway, he ended up kind of getting with this guy a few days later. And I told him, I'm like, he might change his mind. Because honestly, man, $3,500, that's cheap. You know, this thing's in good shape. Wait till you see the interior. So now, this thing came originally with a 170 cubic inch 6-cylinder engine. Now, it had a 200 cubic inch 6-cylinder engine in it. For some reason, somebody pulled the 170 out whenever, you know, years ago, and put the 200 in. Well, it didn't run right. It had blow by. It was blowing oil everywhere. It was just wore slap out. So I think that's one reason why he was selling it so cheap. Well, he so happened to have a 170 cubic inch engine in his garage, or in his barn actually, for this car. He said he had bought it years ago because he knew this engine was wore out. And I think it was his grandson, I believe he said. He had already paid him to put this motor in, take the wore out, the 200 out, and put the 170 in. But he never got around to doing it. Well, since he sold the car, he told my customer, he goes, "Hey," he says, "I've got this engine, and I've already paid my grandson to swap it out." So he got him to swap it out. And you know, he cleaned it up, he painted it up, he did a lot of stuff, man. It looked pretty nice. I'm gonna show you what that looks like now. So we got a freshly painted engine in here. I gotta tell you, the guy did he did a good job. When he told me that he was gonna put this engine in, I was, you know, I was kind of thinking, yeah, okay, he's just gonna swap it out. And I told him, I'm like, hopefully that other engine's in good shape. Well, you know, it's a used engine. I don't think it's been rebuilt, but man, did he clean this thing up. Like he had the engine on the engine stand, I guess, or hanging from a tree, I don't know, and he cleaned it up really good, and he painted it, and he was able to reuse the exhaust manifold. I think this came off the other engine because it bolts right up to the exhaust. The you know, the carburetor was pretty nasty. He did put this choke on it, a little hand choke. He put that on it. Let's see, he put a new fuel pump on it. He put a new distributor in it. Now I'm not sure if he did all that because it was running bad, or he just, you know, that was part of the deal. But you know, new hoses, new belt, looks like a new coil, new plug wires, cap, spark plugs. Yeah, he did a great job, man. I gotta tell you, I just like seeing this. You know, when you do something, just kind of do it right, you know. So actually, we didn't have a hose on here. You know, these just have hoses that go down, but I went ahead and put this little catch can on it. It's made by Dorman. They're $10. It bolts 2 on the top, 1 bolt on the bottom, and I put a hose on there. So we went ahead and did that. So yeah, so I was really impressed when I seen that. You know, I'm like, man, and I almost wonder if he painted the inside black, because I seen this. He brought me this car when he bought it. I don't remember that engine compartment being that clean. I may be wrong, maybe it was, but anyway, he's got it cleaned up, painted black, which is cool. So anyway, you know, the guy, he told him, he goes, yeah, I can't get this thing running good. He says, and I don't know. He says, he couldn't set the timing, and he didn't know how to adjust the valves or anything like that, which is really surprising because he did a really good job switching everything out, you know. So anyway, he brought it to us, and he wanted to rebuild the carburetor. It was leaking, so we got a rebuild kit for it. There was 2 different carburetors available for these. One was a Holley carburetor, and I can't remember what the other one was, if it was a Carter or an actual Motorcraft. I don't remember, but anyway, I pulled the numbers. This one was an actual Holley carburetor. It's a 1-barrel. So I was able to get a rebuild kit for it. Real easy to rebuild. We took it apart, cleaned everything out real good, put it all back together, adjusted the float, everything's good to go. We put that on there, put a new filter on. We cranked this thing up, and it was running fine, but I could tell the lifters were really quiet, like really quiet. This has a mechanical cam in it. They had mechanical camshafts, solid lifters, up through about 1964, and then from 64 or 65 on, they put hydraulic cams and lifters in these. So I pulled the numbers off the side of the block, and this is a 1961, you know, engine. It's a 170, and by the number that's on the block, that's casted in the block, it will also tell you what vehicle it came in. Well, this came in a Ford Falcon, 1961 Falcon. Well, this is a 1961 Falcon. So I'm almost wondering if this engine was in the car and it was running bad and they couldn't figure out why, and they pulled it out and put this other engine in, which was a 200, or maybe they just wanted a bigger engine in it. I'm not sure. It's kind of cool though that this is a number matching car, right? And that engine comes in a Ford Falcon, which is even better. So it was idling okay, didn't have that good a vacuum. spitting and sputtering really bad, even after we rebuilt the carburetor. So I was like, man, this thing has either got bad valve seats or the valves are not adjusted right, because like it was super quiet. Pull the valve cover off, sure enough, whoever adjusted the valves on this engine didn't have them adjusted right at all. They had no valve lash at all between the rocker arm and the valve stem. They didn't have preload on them like if you had a hydraulic valve, but they took them all the way down to the stem, the valve stem, and had no valve lash at all. So what was happening is when it got warmed up, the valves were not closing 100%, causing the issue with the running condition. So these are supposed to be set at 16 thousandths hot. So I didn't want to do it hot, or by the time you get through all of them, the engine's cooling down somewhat. So I normally do them a little more. So I did them at 18 thousandths cold. So by the time it gets warmed up, boom, you're at 16 thousandths, or you know, you're there somewhat. Anyway, that's what I did. And once we fired it up, I set the timing. I got the timing set at 10 degrees before top dead center, and it runs great. No spitting and sputtering, man. It purrs like a kitten, and it works great. And we're going to take this thing for a ride, and then I'll talk a little bit more about the specs and timing and all that stuff, and you know, when we're driving it. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of show you this thing. It's pretty cool. So he didn't have to pay anything for that guy to switch the motor, because the guy had already got paid for it from his grandfather, right? And he got the engine too for free. For $3,500, he got this car, he got the engine, and got the engine put in with those new parts. You can't beat it. So, and then he had another guy go through and just kind of sand some areas and primer. I think he paid him $400 for that. And he's going to take this thing to Mako. He uses Mako because we have local Mako here that really does great work. They'll do the regular quick paint jobs, you know, depending on what quality of paint you want, the price goes up. They do great body work too, you just have to pay for the body work. Well, they gave him a price on cutting this out, cutting the metal out on this fender, and you know, welding a metal in, and they'll fix, you know, a couple other areas, and they're going to spray it. Now he's going to paint it. He's going to go back blue, but he's going to go with a little bit darker blue. He's not going to stay 100% this baby blue. He wants to get a little bit darker blue, but he don't want to go too crazy with it, because he, you know, the interior on this, you know, is the blue interior. I mean, look at this thing. The headliner is in great shape. I don't know if that's original or not, man. Like this, supposedly this car has been sitting indoors. You know, look at the dash. I mean, look at everything. You know, yeah, it's baby blue. Look at the doors. But the interior is great. It's got a little center console. It's an automatic car, which is cool, not having, you know, a 3-speed manual. It's an automatic, but everything is in good shape. The reason the door panels are off is because, let me pull these out. So these, I want to just lay them right here. These are the door panels, and they're all warped and stuff. They got wet. They're in bad shape. Well, he had some new door panels made. He had some new door panels made. They really look good. Of course, you know, the holes got to be cut out for the handles and stuff. So we were going to put them on for him. The problem is they're so thick, they won't fit in. It won't fit in these channels here. They got a channel that slides down in there, and then you pop it up here, and it has one clip that holds it in here and one clip that holds it in here, and then of course you got this, and then you got this that goes on it that holds it on. The guy did a great job. So what he did is the car was being worked on, you know, by the other guy, and he took the old panels to an upholstery shop. and the guy had the backer boards that came off of a Mustang. These are just like the Mustangs, and the only difference is the two holes that the grab handle is, those are in a different location. Other than that, it's the same panel. So he basically made new panels. The problem is the material has a foam on the back of it. It's really nice, but it's way too thick. It won't fit in these channels. I mean, I tried. I didn't do it on this side, but on the other side, I got a long piece of metal and I stuck it in there, and I pried them. I pried them open. You can't get them open too far, but I got them open, top and bottom. It won't go in there. They're just way too thick. I mean, it's way too thick. So what he's going to do, he's just going to take the car to the guy, the upholstery shop, and he's just going to have to redo them. He's either going to have to go with a thinner backer board, or he's going to have to get material that don't have a foam backing on them, because they're just too thick. But they're going to look good in there. I mean, he matched the color to the T, man, to them panels. But yeah, this thing it's pretty cool. Let me do a little walk around here. You know, it's got the old little teeny wheels on it. But yeah, look at that. It's I really would like to have this car and build a motor, man. Build a small block Ford. He's had a lot of people offering money for this, because a lot of guys get these cars and they put some hot motors in them because they don't weigh anything. But he's not wanting to sell it. He's wanting to get it painted and add to his collection and enjoy it. This right here needs to be changed. This was on it. You know, it's very small, but it does the purpose. It does what it does, you know. But yeah, that's cool, man. All right, I tell you what, let's go ahead and fire this thing up, and we're gonna go for a ride. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and take this thing for a ride. The old Butte here, the old Beauty Falcon. This thing is running good now. Man, it's amazing what a rebuilt carburetor and adjusting the valves can do. It was hardly idle. It would spit and sputter. It idles really smooth. I was kind of wondering if the valves, you know, were all ate up and stuff, but it purrs like a kitten now. Very smooth. Temperature gauge works, fuel gauge works, speedometer's working. Let's see how the transmission works. Oh, it's shifting. This is just a 2-speed. It's an old 2-speed automatic transmission. It's pretty much, man, this thing's got some power. So, like I was talking about before, the distributor on these old 6-cylinders, they don't have mechanical advance in the distributor. They don't have weights and springs in the distributor. The distributor does no advance at all. All the advance on the timing is controlled by vacuum, and it's controlled by ported vacuum, not manifold vacuum. So ported vacuum is it adds vacuum as RPM increases, or as you get more of a load on the engine, you get more vacuum, which is a total opposite of manifold vacuum. Manifold vacuum is where you have all your vacuum at idle, and then as you start accelerating and come under a load on the engine, you lose manifold vacuum. So this carburetor, there's a name for it, and I forget what they call it, the type of carburetor it is, but it has a certain valve in the carburetor that controls that vacuum for the distributor. And before, we wouldn't get any advancement on that distributor through the vacuum, and now we're getting it. I mean, it definitely has some power, so it's advancing the timing as we accelerate. And was due to the, of course we rebuilt the carburetor, but the valves were not adjusted right. So this engine has a mechanical cam, which is a solid lifter camshaft. They didn't go to a hydraulic camshaft until 1964 or 65. And this is a 1961, so it has a solid lifter camshaft. Well, whoever adjusted the valves in this thing, I think they might have known it was a mechanical camshaft because they didn't have preload on the rocker arms, but they did not have any gap at all. Like, they just took it right down to the valve and they tightened them up. And what was happening was it was holding the valves open. Let me roll the windows up here. Shut the AC off, the vents. It's got them opened up. So anyway, it was holding the valves open a little bit while it was idling and running down the road. That's why it had no power and it had low vacuum. So these are supposed to be set 16 thousandths on both the intake and exhaust, which is kind of weird because usually the exhaust valves always are a couple thousandths, you know, more of a gap on the exhaust valves because they get hotter. But these call for 16 thousandths when the engine is hot on both intake and exhaust. So what I did is I set them at 18 thousandths cold, and it sounds great. You can't hardly really, you can hear a little bit of rocker arm, not much. It's normal. It's not loud at all. Honestly, it don't even sound like it's a mechanical cam. But that way, when the engine warms up, the operating temperature, that gap will close up to about 16 thousandths. But man, this thing runs good. So this engine is a 170 cc. They had a 144. It was a 140 or 44, something like that, I forget. Then they came up with a 170, and then they came out with a 200, which I think the 200s were like 64 and up or whatever. They came out with the bigger 6-cylinder when they came out with the Mustang. And then of course, that's when they went to hydraulic camshafts. But he's going to be happy, really happy that this thing's running good. He was thinking it was a carburetor that needed rebuilding, the reason it was running so bad, which, you know, it did need it. It was old. Everything in it was all dry rotted up and stuff. But it needed the valves adjusted. All new spark plugs, new distributor, everything. So the thing was running really good. This thing probably don't weigh 2,500 pounds. Man, we need to put a motor in this thing. Build a freaking 347, 363. Watch out. 700 horsepower. So the initial timing on this at idle is 10 degrees before top dead center. And that's another thing, it wasn't set right. It was sitting at about 15, 18. It was way off the scale. So I found the marks, set it at 10 degrees, idling, and of course that's with no vacuum on it. Oh, watch out. That's about half throttle. I don't want to put it to the floor. I don't want to hurt the motor. But it runs good. We're doing about 50 miles an hour. Oh, hit the rumble strips. There's 60. Yeah, it's definitely a 2-speed. I don't know what gear's in this thing, but it's not really set up for the highway. That's pretty cool. All right. Well, we're going to be heading back to the shop and do a little final walk around on this thing. Make sure we don't have any leaks. Make sure everything's good. and then we'll close this video out. So we'll see you back here at the shop shortly. We made it back to the shop, and yeah, this thing's pretty like kitten, man. It runs good. I'm really surprised. It's got some power too, you know, for a little old 6-cylinder. But yeah, I wanted to let you listen to this thing, man. I don't know if it's as good a sound to you guys through the camera, but it just purrs like a kitten. I mean, it just runs very smooth now. And with the valve lash being set where it's at, you would think that this thing would have noisy, you know, rocker arms, but it doesn't. You know, Ford calls for 16 thousandths hot, like I was talking about before. You know, I set them at 18 cold, and it runs perfect. Sounds good. You got a good deal. That motor sounds healthy too. The bottom end sounds nice and quiet. It's got fresh oil and filter, you know. The exhaust sounds perfect. So yeah, man, that's a wrap. That is a wrap. He's gonna be happy. I need to call him up, tell him to come get this thing, because he's gonna, I think now he's gonna take and go get it painted. He's already talked to him about it. I mean, the weather's pretty nice today. This is awesome. We had, as you guys know, you know, the whole, man, most of the country had a blizzard, super cold. Shoot, it was awful, man. We had, you know, it was like 5 degrees below zero. Wind chill was like 20 to 30 below, gusting it was crazy. We had probably 5-6 inches of snow, ice. It was awful. This whole area was just covered. And yesterday it warmed up. It was probably 40s. A lot of it melted off yesterday. We had some sunshine come out, and you can see, you know, there's a pile what's left of it, but all of it's gone now. I mean, all this was just covered. And today we're in the 50s. Sun shining. It's nice. And we're gonna have some rain tonight, and tomorrow it's gonna rain all day. But it's gonna be nice for a while, and then it's supposed to turn cold again down the road. But that's cool. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this video up. I wanted to show you guys this cool Falcon that we had in here. So oh yeah, so I meant to tell you, you notice this one's broken. So he's got another Falcon, another emblem. I actually found one for him on eBay, a used one, and it's laying in the floorboard in there in the box. He's going to be putting that on after he gets it painted. But yeah, all right, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up. I've went long enough here, so I do appreciate you guys checking this video out for sure. And don't forget to like, you know, leave some comments if you want. If you haven't already, you know, if you consider subscribe to the channel if you'd like, you know, all that good stuff. But I do appreciate it. We got some more stuff coming on the channel as soon as if I can make some time to do it. And yeah, we'll get some stuff out there for you. I appreciate it. You guys have a good one, and we will catch you on the next video.